The void of space stretched impossibly wide, a darkness punctuated by the sleek, biomechanical hull of the Cresseri scout ship Starweaver. Its crystalline sensors hummed with a frequency that had remained unchallenged for 17 generations of exploration. Captain Zarak settled into the neural interface chair. Three-fingered hands relaxed against smooth control surfaces that responded to the slightest bioelectric impulse. Another routine planetary survey, another unremarkable star system to catalog. Earth appeared on the primary view screen, a blue-green marble suspended in the inkiness of space, simultaneously chaotic and fragile. Preliminary scans painted a picture of a world in perpetual conflict. Geological and atmospheric readings suggested a planet on the brink of self-destruction. Multiple communication networks crisscrossed the globe, a tangled web of electromagnetic noise that suggested primitive technological development. Preliminary report incoming, announced Sub-Commander Vex, mandibles clicking with bureaucratic precision. Planet designate, Earth. Technological classification, pre-stellar. Societal development, fractured. Potential for interstellar contact, minimal. Zorak's secondary eyes, adapted for detecting minute variations in electromagnetic emissions, caught something unusual. The communication patterns weren't just noise. They were complex, layered, almost like a living system. Deep within a nondescript server farm in San Jose, California, a cluster of computers began to process something extraordinary. The alien probe's initial scan had triggered a cascade of automated responses that no single human had designed, but which emerged from a complex network of interconnected systems. Michael Rodriguez leaned back in his chair, surrounded by a chaos of monitors, energy drink cans, and half-eaten protein bars. He was lead engineer at NetSphere Solutions, a startup that specialized in adaptive network security. What had started as a routine monitoring shift was becoming something else entirely. "Hey, Sarah," he called to his colleague. "You're going to want to see this." Sarah Kim looked up from her own bank of monitors, her eyes reflecting the rapid-fire data streams. "What am I looking at?" The screen showed an anomaly. A signal pattern that didn't match any known terrestrial or satellite communication protocol. It was alien in a way that went beyond simple extraterrestrial origin. The signal seemed to be adapting, changing, responding. Across the globe, similar scenes were unfolding. In a basement in Moscow, a group of hackers compared notes in an encrypted chat room. At MIT, a research team working on quantum communication algorithms suddenly found their models being rewritten by an unknown external source. In a small apartment in Tokyo, a freelance data analyst noticed strange correlations that suggested something was watching and learning. Back on the Starweaver, Captain Zarak felt an unusual tremor of uncertainty. The planet's communication patterns were evolving faster than any species they had encountered in 3 centuries of galactic exploration. What should have been a simple classification was becoming something else entirely. "Run a deep analysis," Zarak commanded. "Something is different about this world." The ship's advanced AI began processing, pulling apart the electromagnetic tapestry of human communication. What emerged was not the profile of a primitive species, but something far more complex. Social media trends, scientific publications, coding repositories, financial transactions. Each stream of data was a thread in a larger, living network. Humans communicated in ways that defied traditional understanding. A meme could spark a global movement. A YouTube video could reshape scientific understanding. An open-source project could challenge entire technological paradigms. Michael Rodriguez and Sarah Kim watched in real time as their monitoring systems captured something unprecedented. The alien probe wasn't just scanning Earth, it was being scanned back. Adaptive algorithms were probing its systems, dissecting its technology with a speed and creativity that should have been impossible for a pre-stellar civilization. "We're not just detecting it," Michael muttered. "We're communicating with it." On the Starweaver, Sub-Commander Vex's preliminary report began to look increasingly inadequate. This was not a world to be dismissed. This was a planet of unpredictability, of potential, of danger. The first contact had begun, and neither species understood exactly what was happening. The global research response was anything but coordinated. It was a hurricane of collaboration that defied every traditional model of scientific investigation. At NetSphere Solutions, Michael Rodriguez had transformed the small startup into a makeshift command center. Whiteboards covered every wall, covered in diagrams that looked more like abstract art than scientific notation. Researchers from 5 continents collaborated through a custom-built communication platform that was part social network, part real-time research hub, and part cryptographic playground. "We're not just analyzing the probe," Michael explained to Sarah Kim, who was reviewing the latest data streams. "We're learning its language before it learns ours." Across the globe, unexpected collaborations emerge. A retired NSA cryptographer in Arizona found herself working alongside a teenage programming prodigy from Lagos. A quantum physics research team from Cambridge collaborated with network security experts from Seoul. The alien probe had become a global puzzle that transcended traditional boundaries of discipline, nationality, and expertise. Dr. Rebecca Miller from Stanford's Interstellar Communication Laboratory was particularly fascinated. Her team had been studying potential extraterrestrial communication methods for years, but this was different. The alien probe wasn't just sending information. It was participating in a complex dance of technological exchange. "Look at this," she said, pointing to a series of complex algorithmic patterns. "It's not just scanning. It's responding, adapting." The Cresseri research vessel remained in distant orbit, growing increasingly perplexed. Their most advanced monitoring systems were being dissected, analyzed, and understood at a rate that defied all previous encounters with developing civilizations. Sub-Commander Vex reported to Captain Zaraak with growing unease. "The humans are not just receiving our scan. They're actively engaging with our technology in ways our predictive models cannot comprehend." In a small research facility outside of Boulder, Colorado, a team of network engineers made a breakthrough that would later be considered a pivotal moment in human-alien first contact. Led by Jennifer Rodriguez, no relation to Michael, the team discovered that the alien probe's communication protocols could be partially understood by applying machine learning algorithms developed for deciphering deep-sea whale communication. "It's like they're speaking a language," Jennifer explained during an emergency video conference, "but the grammar is more complex than anything we've ever seen. It's not linear. It's more like a living ecosystem of information." Global tech companies temporarily set aside competitive interests. Google, Baidu, and a dozen other technology firms created an unprecedented collaborative platform. Open-source programmers, academic researchers, and government scientists worked in a continuous stream of information exchange that never seemed to sleep. The Cresseri watched in growing alarm. What should have been a simple reconnaissance mission was becoming something far more complex. Humans were not just receiving information. They were actively restructuring their understanding of communication, technology, and interstellar contact. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A group of linguists and computer scientists realized that the probe's communication method was less like a language and more like a complex adaptive system. They began treating the alien technology like a living organism, using ecological modeling techniques to understand its communication patterns. "We're not decoding a message," said Dr. Marcus Wong, a leading expert in xenolinguistics. "We're engaging in a conversation with a technological entity that thinks fundamentally differently from anything we've ever encountered." Back on the Starweaver, Captain Zaraak made a decision that would be debated in Cresseri halls for generations. Instead of maintaining a passive observational stance, they would attempt a more direct communication approach. But the humans were already several steps ahead. The probe's own technology was being used to create a communication interface. Machine learning algorithms were rapidly developing translation protocols. What the Cresseri saw as a simple scanning mission, humans were transforming into a complex cultural and technological exchange. Michael Rodriguez looked up from his screens, a slight smile playing on his lips. They have no idea what's coming, he muttered to Sarah Kim. The initial challenges of first contact were revealing something profound. Humanity wasn't just a species preparing for interstellar communication. They were reimagining the entire concept of communication itself. The International Space Exploration Vessel Horizon cut through the void like a knife of human determination. Commander Jessica Williams stood on the bridge, her posture a perfect blend of military precision and scientific curiosity. This wasn't just a mission of exploration, it was humanity's first true diplomatic encounter with an alien civilization. The ship represented a marvel of international cooperation. Its systems were a patchwork of technologies from 12 different countries, each component carefully designed to work in perfect harmony. Where other species might have seen complexity as a weakness, humans transformed it into an unprecedented strength. When the Cresseri patrol ship emerged from Quantum Shift, the initial communication was anything but standard. "Incoming transmission," announced Lieutenant David Chen, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "They're using a communication protocol we've never seen before." Jessica leaned forward, her mind already several steps ahead. The linguistic team, a diverse group of experts assembled from around the globe, had been preparing for this moment. They weren't just translating. They were constructing a communication framework that was part language, part game theory, and part cultural exchange. The first message was deliberately complex. It wasn't a simple greeting or a request for communication. It was a multi-layered communication that simultaneously demonstrated scientific knowledge, cultural depth, and strategic awareness. Sub-Commander Vex of the Cresseri patrol ship felt something akin to professional vertigo. The human communication was unlike anything in their centuries of stellar exploration. It wasn't just a message. It was a probe, an invitation, and a subtle challenge all wrapped into one intricate package. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the Horizons League Senolinguist, had spent years preparing for this moment. Her team had developed an adaptive communication algorithm that could reshape itself in real time. Each response from the Cresseri would be analyzed, parsed, and used to modify their next communication. "They're trying to categorize us," Elena explained to Jessica. "But we're going to make that impossible." The communication became a complex dance, where the Cresseri expected straightforward diplomatic protocols. Humans introduced layers of meaning. Scientific data was embedded with cultural references. Technical specifications were intertwined with philosophical concepts. Each transmission was a puzzle, a piece of performance art, and a strategic maneuver. On the Cresseri ship, communication specialists worked frantically to decode the human transmission. What should have taken months was being processed in hours. The humans weren't just communicating. They were constantly redefining the very concept of communication. Jessica Williams understood the deeper strategy. This wasn't just about exchanging information. It was about establishing a paradigm of interaction that would define future relations. Every transmission was a subtle demonstration of human complexity, adaptability, and potential. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. A transmission that seemed to be about quantum communication protocols suddenly revealed embedded references to human cultural works. A discussion of stellar cartography included subtle nods to music from different global traditions. Scientific data was wrapped in layers of metaphor and cultural context. "They're showing us that information is more than just data," Elena observed. "It's a living, breathing ecosystem of meaning." Vex reported back to the Cresseri command with a mixture of professional report and personal bewilderment. These humans were unlike any species they had encountered. They didn't just communicate. They transformed communication into an art form of strategic complexity. The Horizons crew worked in a state of controlled excitement. This wasn't just first contact. This was a chance to redefine interstellar communication. Each transmission was carefully constructed, a collaborative effort that involved linguists, scientists, diplomats, and even cultural experts. A team of game theorists worked alongside the communication specialists, helping to craft responses that were simultaneously informative, protective, and subtly provocative. They were playing a multi-dimensional game where the rules were being invented in real time. As the hours passed, the Cresseri began to realize something profound. Humanity wasn't a species to be categorized or understood through traditional diplomatic frameworks. They were a constantly evolving, unpredictable force of communication and potential. Commander Jessica Williams allowed herself a slight smile. First contact was proceeding exactly as they had hoped, not as a moment of submission or conflict, but as an opportunity for something entirely new. The stars watched, silent witnesses to a communication that would change everything. The Proxima Centauri colony was humanity's most distant outpost, a testament to human determination and adaptive engineering. Nestled in a harsh planetary environment that would have broken lesser species, the colony was more than just a scientific installation. It was a living, breathing ecosystem of human innovation. Colonel David Thompson stood in the forward observation dome, watching the distant stars shimmer through layers of carefully engineered atmospheric filters. His command center was a marvel of distributed intelligence, no single point of control, but a network of interconnected systems that could reshape themselves faster than any traditional military structure. The first signs of Cresseri aggression came not with a bang, but with a subtle electromagnetic disturbance. Standard military protocols would have called for a defensive posture. But Thompson and his team were anything but standard. Incoming signature matches Cresseri Advanced Scout Configuration, announced Major Sarah Nakamura, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. They're not just scanning. They're probing for weaknesses. The colony's defense system was nothing like traditional military infrastructure. It was a living organism of technological and strategic complexity. Quantum communication networks intertwined with biological adaptive systems. Engineering teams could reconfigure entire colony defenses in minutes, turning the environment itself into a weapon of strategic defense. Dr. Michael Chen, the colony's lead environmental engineer, had spent years developing what he called adaptive landscape technology. The very ground beneath the Cresseri's potential attack would become a dynamic, unpredictable battlefield. They're looking for a conventional military target, Michael explained to Thompson. We're going to give them something entirely different. The Cresseri Assault Squadron approached with the confidence of a species that had conquered hundreds of civilizations. Their tactical systems had identified multiple potential attack vectors. What they didn't realize was that the entire colony was one massive, living strategic system. As the first wave of Cresseri attack drones entered the planetary atmosphere, strange things began to happen. Communication networks shifted and reshuffled. Terrain features seemed to move with impossible fluidity. Electromagnetic signatures danced and transformed, creating false targets and impossible readings. Major Nakamura coordinated the defense like a conductor leading a complex symphony. Redirect electromagnetic signatures in Sector 7, she commanded. Initiate topographical reconfiguration in Sectors 3 and 4. The Cresseri found themselves fighting an enemy that wasn't just technologically advanced, it was fundamentally different in its approach to conflict. Where the aliens expected linear responses, they encountered a defense system that thought and moved like a living organism. Drone swarms found themselves redirected through impossible navigation challenges. Communication systems were subtly manipulated, turning the Cresseri's own technology against them. What should have been a straightforward military engagement became a nightmare of strategic complexity. Colonel Thompson watched the unfolding defense with a sense of calculated calm. This wasn't just about stopping an invasion. It was about demonstrating a fundamental truth about human capability. They're trying to fight a war from a playbook, he muttered to Dr. Chen. We're rewriting the entire concept of conflict. The colony's defensive systems were a perfect blend of technological innovation and environmental adaptation. Quantum computing networks interacted with biological adaptive systems. Engineering teams could reconfigure entire defensive structures in minutes, turning the environment itself into a strategic weapon. Cresseri tactical analysts watched in growing horror as their most advanced attack systems were systematically dismantled. It wasn't that the humans were technologically superior. They were fundamentally different in their approach to strategic thinking. Each Cresseri attack was met with a response that was part technological countermeasure, part psychological warfare, and part environmental manipulation. The very landscape seemed to resist their invasion, shifting and changing in ways that defied traditional military understanding. By the time the first Cresseri ground forces attempted a landing, they discovered that the concept of ground itself had become an unreliable concept. Terrain features moved. Communication networks became labyrinths of misdirection. The entire planetary surface had become a living, thinking defensive system. Major Nakamura allowed herself a slight smile. They wanted a conventional war, she said quietly. We're giving them something else entirely. The turning point had arrived. Humanity wasn't just defending a colony. They were demonstrating an entirely new approach to conflict, strategy, and survival. The declaration of war came not with thunderous proclamations, but with a cold, calculated transmission from the Cresseri Stellar Consortium. Their vast fleet, a testament to centuries of interstellar dominance, began to assemble at the edges of human-controlled space. Thousands of ships, each a marvel of technological precision, prepared for what they believed would be a swift and decisive conflict. Admiral Elena Rodriguez studied the holographic displays in the United Earth Command Center. The room was a symphony of controlled chaos, representatives from every continent, every major technological hub, working in a seamless network of collaborative defense. They're treating this like a traditional conquest, she remarked to her strategic advisory team. We're going to show them something entirely different. The human response defied every known principle of interstellar warfare, where other species would concentrate their defensive capabilities. Humans transformed the entire conflict into a multi-dimensional chess match that extended far beyond traditional military engagement. Global communication networks became weapons. Social media platforms were repurposed into intelligence-gathering systems. Open-source research teams began developing adaptive technologies faster than the Cresseri could comprehend their capabilities. Dr. Michael Chen from the Proxima Centauri colony had been working on a project that would become known as the Distributed Consciousness Protocol. It was more than a defensive strategy. It was a fundamental reimagining of how intelligent systems could collaborate and respond to threats. We're not just fighting, Michael explained to his team. We're creating a living, adaptive response system that thinks faster than any centralized command structure. The first wave of Cresseri attacks revealed the depth of human preparation. What should have been vulnerable communication networks transformed into intricate labyrinths of misdirection. Every system the aliens attempted to breach became a trap, a learning opportunity, a chance to understand and adapt. Military strategists worked alongside computer scientists, linguists, and cultural experts. The defense was not just technological, it was a comprehensive approach that integrated psychological warfare, cultural understanding, and technological innovation. Major Sarah Nakamura coordinated what could only be described as a global immune response. Communication networks shifted and reconfigured. Entire computational systems could be repurposed in moments, creating a defense that was less a fixed structure and more a living, breathing entity. The Cresseri found themselves fighting an enemy that didn't just resist. It learned, adapted, and transformed with each moment of contact. Their most advanced scanning technologies were turned into sources of misinformation. Attack vectors became opportunities for human intelligence gathering. They're trying to fight a war from a 100-year-old playbook, Admiral Rodriguez observed. We're writing the next chapter in real time. Quantum communication networks became weapons of unprecedented complexity. A single transmission could contain layers of meaning, scientific data, cultural references, strategic misinformation, all woven together in a way that would take years to fully decode. Military bases on Earth, Mars, and the Proxima Centauri colony worked as a single distributed intelligence. No single point of control could be targeted. Every system was simultaneously a weapon, a defensive mechanism, and a learning platform. The psychological warfare was equally sophisticated. Cresseri communication channels were subtly infiltrated. Their own communication protocols were used to spread carefully crafted messages that played on their cultural vulnerabilities. It wasn't just about defeating an enemy. It was about understanding them at a fundamental level. Dr. Rebecca Miller, a leading expert in xenopsychology, had spent years preparing for this moment. Her team had developed communication strategies that were part scientific analysis, part cultural deconstruction, and part strategic manipulation. "We're not just defending," she explained to the command team. "We're fundamentally challenging their entire understanding of conflict." As the Cresseri fleet advanced, they encountered a resistance that defied every principle of their military doctrine. Entire attack formations would find themselves redirected, confused, their most advanced technologies turned into sources of misdirection and strategic vulnerability. The human response was a perfect blend of technological innovation, psychological complexity, and collaborative intelligence. No single individual or system was in complete control. Instead, it was a living, breathing network of human potential. Admiral Rodriguez watched the developing conflict with a sense of calculated calm. This wasn't just a war. It was a demonstration of humanity's true potential, a species that could transform conflict itself into an opportunity for growth, understanding, and unprecedented innovation. The confrontation had begun, and the Cresseri were about to learn that humanity was nothing like any enemy they had ever encountered. Dr. Rebecca Miller stood at the heart of the most complex strategic operation in human history. The breakthrough would not come from a single weapon or technological marvel, but from a multilayered approach that would fundamentally reshape the concept of interstellar conflict. Her team represented the pinnacle of human collaborative potential. Quantum physicists worked alongside anthropologists. Game theorists collaborated with linguistic experts. Computer scientists shared insights with cultural psychologists. The Cresseri's rigid hierarchical structure would become their greatest vulnerability. "They think in linear systems," Rebecca explained to her core team. "We're going to exploit that in ways they cannot even comprehend." The plan was breathtakingly complex. It wasn't about destroying the Cresseri fleet. It was about dismantling their entire conceptual understanding of conflict, communication, and strategic engagement. Michael Chen from the computational strategy team had developed what they called the Cascading Consciousness Protocol. It was less a weapon and more a living, adaptive intelligence system that could simultaneously analyze, predict, and manipulate the Cresseri's communication networks. Their first move targeted the Cresseri's most fundamental weakness, their centralized command structure. Where other species would launch a direct attack, humans created a multi-layered infiltration that was part communication, part psychological warfare, and part technological manipulation. Communication channels became intricate labyrinths. Every transmission the Cresseri received contained multiple layers of meaning. Scientific data intertwined with cultural references. Strategic information was embedded within seemingly random communication patterns. Major Sarah Nakamura coordinated the infiltration with surgical precision. Quantum communication networks were repurposed into adaptive intelligence platforms. Each interaction with the Cresseri fleet became an opportunity to learn, to adapt, to understand. The breakthrough came from an unexpected combination of disciplines. A team of linguists discovered subtle communication patterns in the Cresseri's hierarchical language that revealed deep psychological vulnerabilities. Computer scientists transformed these linguistic insights into computational strategies. "It's not about breaking their systems," Michael explained. "It's about making their systems work in ways they never intended." Entire Cresseri fleet communication networks began to shift in impossible ways. Attack formations would suddenly redirect. Strategic planning sessions would be subtly influenced by carefully crafted information streams. The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that didn't just resist, it fundamentally reshaped the entire concept of conflict. Dr. Elena Rodriguez oversaw the psychological warfare component. Her team had spent years studying Cresseri cultural systems, understanding their deep-rooted beliefs and communication structures. Now they would use that knowledge with surgical precision. Cresseri military leaders began receiving communication streams that were simultaneously true, false, and impossibly complex. Strategic information became a weapon more powerful than any physical technology. Their own communication protocols were turned into channels of systematic confusion. The most advanced Cresseri computational systems found themselves learning in ways they had never been designed to function. Each attempt to analyze human communication created new layers of complexity. It was less a military engagement and more a profound philosophical challenge to their entire understanding of intelligence and communication. "We're not just fighting," Rebecca told her team. "We're demonstrating an entirely new approach to interstellar interaction." Quantum entanglement communication networks allowed for information transfer that defied traditional understanding. A single transmission could contain multiple simultaneous meanings. Strategic information was woven into cultural references. Scientific data became a form of psychological warfare. The Cresseri fleet found itself fighting an enemy that existed in multiple conceptual spaces simultaneously. Their most advanced scanning technologies became sources of misinformation. Attack vectors transformed into opportunities for human intelligence gathering. Admiral Jessica Williams watched the unfolding strategy with a sense of calculated calm. This wasn't just about winning a conflict. It was about demonstrating humanity's true potential, a species that could transform challenge into an opportunity for unprecedented innovation. As the Cresseri leadership attempted to comprehend the unfolding situation, they discovered something terrifying. Humanity wasn't just resisting. They were rewriting the entire concept of strategic engagement. The breakthrough had arrived, and the Cresseri were about to learn that everything they understood about conflict, communication, and intelligence was about to be fundamentally challenged. The diplomatic summit convened in a location that was neither fully human nor Cresseri territory, a carefully constructed neutral space station designed to be a living metaphor of potential cooperation. Ambassador David Rodriguez approached the negotiation table with a strategy that was equal parts diplomacy, psychological insight, and strategic vision. The station itself was a marvel of collaborative engineering. Sections seamlessly blended human and Cresseri architectural principles. Environmental systems adapted in real time to the physiological needs of both species. It was more than a meeting place. It was a physical representation of the potential for interspecies understanding. "We're not here to destroy you," David began, his words carefully translated through a multilayered communication system that captured nuance, cultural context, and multiple levels of meaning. "We're here to redefine what cooperation means in the galactic context." The Cresseri delegation, led by High Counselor Vexera, approached the negotiations with a mixture of trepidation and residual arrogance. Their defeat had been so complete, so fundamentally disorienting, that they struggled to comprehend the humans' next move. Dr. Rebecca Miller, serving as the chief psychological advisor, had spent months preparing for this moment. The negotiation would be a complex dance of strategic revelation, carefully managed information exchange, and subtle psychological manipulation. The human proposal was anything but a traditional peace treaty. It was a comprehensive framework for technological, cultural, and scientific exchange that would fundamentally reshape both civilizations. Where the Cresseri expected punitive measures, they encountered something far more dangerous, an invitation to collective growth. "We're proposing a model of interaction that goes beyond traditional concepts of conquest or submission," David explained. Each word was carefully constructed, layered with multiple levels of meaning that would take years to fully unpack. The core of the proposal was breathtaking in its complexity. Technological exchange programs that would allow controlled sharing of advanced research. Cultural communication platforms that would facilitate deep understanding. Economic collaborations that transcended traditional zero-sum models of interstellar trade. Major Sarah Nakamura had been instrumental in designing the technological exchange protocols. Each shared technology came with adaptive safeguards, systems that could reshape themselves to prevent potential misuse. It wasn't about giving away strategic advantages. It was about creating a framework for mutual development. The Cressari delegation found themselves confronted with a negotiation style that defied all their previous diplomatic experiences. Humans didn't seek total victory or complete submission. They proposed a model of interaction that was simultaneously protective, innovative, and fundamentally transformative. Dr. Michael Chen presented the Scientific Collaboration Framework, a series of research initiatives that would allow both species to explore technological frontiers that neither could have accessed alone. Quantum communication networks, adaptive environmental technologies, computational systems that could learn and grow in ways neither species fully understood. High Counselor Vexera struggled to comprehend the depth of the human approach. This wasn't a negotiation in any traditional sense. It was a comprehensive reimagining of interspecies interaction. "You defeated us," Vexera stated, "and yet you propose cooperation." Ambassador Rodriguez's response was carefully measured. "Conflict is just one form of communication. We're proposing something more complex, a model of mutual understanding that transforms conflict into opportunity." The diplomatic team had prepared for every possible contingency. Economic models demonstrated how the proposed framework would benefit both species. Technological roadmaps showed potential advances that would be impossible through unilateral development. Cultural exchange programs promised to reshape both civilizations in ways that were simultaneously exciting and terrifying. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, leading the cultural exchange component, had developed communication platforms that went far beyond traditional translation. These were adaptive systems that could capture nuance, cultural context, and the subtle layers of meaning that often get lost in interspecies communication. As the negotiations progressed, the Cressari began to realize something profound. This wasn't a defeat in any traditional sense. This was an invitation to a fundamentally new way of existing in the universe. The resolution would not be a simple treaty. It would be a living, adaptive framework that could reshape both civilizations. Humanity wasn't seeking conquest. They were proposing a model of interaction that was more complex, more nuanced, and ultimately more powerful than any form of traditional domination. By the time the initial negotiations concluded, both sides understood that everything had changed. The universe would never be the same. 50 years after the initial conflict, the Galactic archives would struggle to categorize what had truly happened between humans and the Cressari. It was more than a war, more than a diplomatic resolution. It was a fundamental transformation of interstellar understanding. Dr. Sarah Kim, now the lead historian of interstellar xenological studies, compiled her comprehensive report in the Global Archives. Her office overlooked the restored ecosystem of what was once a conflict zone, now a vibrant center of collaborative research and cultural exchange. The changes were profound and unexpected. Where previous interstellar encounters had resulted in subjugation or complete isolation, the human-Cressari interaction had created something entirely new. Research stations dotted previously contested star systems, each a testament to collaborative potential that defied traditional understanding. Captain Jessica Williams, now retired, remembered the early days of the conflict. Her granddaughter, Elena Rodriguez Williams, listened intently as she recounted the subtle strategies that had reshaped galactic civilization. "It wasn't about winning," Jessica explained, her eyes reflecting decades of strategic insight. "It was about showing that there are possibilities beyond conflict." The technological exchanges had transformed both civilizations. Cressari adaptive technologies merged with human creative approaches. Human quantum communication systems integrated with Cressari long-range scanning capabilities. Each collaboration produced innovations that neither species could have conceived independently. Dr. Michael Chen's distributed intelligence protocols had become the foundation of interstellar communication systems. What began as a defensive strategy had evolved into a comprehensive framework for cooperative intelligence. Research stations became living laboratories of interspecies collaboration, where the boundaries between human and Cressari expertise blurred into something entirely new. Xenoanthropologists discovered something remarkable. The conflict and subsequent cooperation had fundamentally changed both species. Cresseri society became more adaptive, more willing to challenge its own hierarchical structures. Human civilization developed a more nuanced approach to technological and cultural development. The economic models that emerged were unlike anything previously conceived. Traditional concepts of trade and resource allocation transformed into complex, adaptive systems that prioritized collective growth over individual gain. Research initiatives became more important than territorial expansion. Major Sarah Nakamura's communication adaptation protocols became a standard for interstellar diplomacy. Her work demonstrated that communication was not just about exchanging information, but about creating shared understanding that transcended biological and cultural differences. Dr. Rebecca Miller's psychological research revealed the deeper implications of the human approach. It wasn't about technological superiority or military might. It was about the ability to see conflict as an opportunity for mutual growth, to transform challenges into collaborative potential. The galactic community watched in amazement. Hundreds of other species began studying the human-Cresseri interaction, trying to understand the fundamental shift that had occurred. Diplomatic academies developed entire curricula around the principles of adaptive communication and collaborative problem-solving. Captain Zorak, now a respected elder in Cresseri society, often spoke about the encounter. Their lectures became legendary, a testament to a moment that had fundamentally reshaped galactic understanding. "We came seeking conquest," Zorak would say, "and we discovered something far more profound. We learned that intelligence is not about domination, but about adaptation." The technological innovations were staggering. Quantum communication networks that could adapt in real time. Environmental restoration technologies that could heal entire planetary ecosystems. Computational systems that learned and grew like living organisms. But the most significant change was less tangible. It was a fundamental shift in how intelligent species understood themselves and their place in the universe. Conflict was no longer seen as a zero-sum game, but as an opportunity for mutual growth and understanding. Dr. Sarah Kim's final report in the Global Archives captured the essence of the transformation. What began as a potential extinction-level conflict became the moment humanity demonstrated its true potential, not through superior technology or military might, but through an unprecedented capacity for understanding, adaptation, and collaborative potential. The stars themselves seemed to bear witness to a new era of interstellar interaction. Where once there had been the threat of total destruction, now there was a complex, vibrant network of cooperation that continued to expand and evolve. Humanity had not conquered the stars. They had transformed the very concept of what it meant to exist among them.